Yesterday, we spent time in the mountains harvesting the Manzanita blossoms. Today, we're gonna spend time in my kitchen taking those beautiful blossoms and making them into a jelly. So let's go ahead and get started. After cooking down the Manzanita blossoms, you do want to strain the extract. Because of the elevation at which I live up here, which is at 3,000 feet, I like to prepare my hot water bath so that it will be ready when it's time for the jelly to be processed in the bath. And I like to have my equipment lined up. I've got the pan to cook in the blossom extract. I've got my whisk and various scoops and various spoons so that I can check on the consistency of the gel. I've got 1 pack of the Sure Gel pectin ready for when it's time, and I've got 2/3 of a cup of sugar all measured. From my extract, which I have here in this jar, which has had 1 fresh squeezed lemon added to this, I will be taking out 2 2/3 of a cup of this extract. And to be sure that it's all nice and clear, I like to put it through my filter and make sure it's all strained very, very clearly. Just back with a real quick correction, it is 2 2/3 cups sugar, not 2/3. So the ingredients again are 2 2/3 cups sugar, 2 2/3 cup extract, 1 box of pectin, 1 fresh squeezed lemon. Thank you. Let's go ahead and get started with the process of putting together making this jelly. I'm going to measure out 2 2/3 of a cup of the Manzanita blossom extract. Here we've got 1 cup. Look at the gorgeous color of that extract. 1 cup, and I will put it through my filter as I pour it in the pan, just to make sure that there's no little blossom pieces left in there. Go 2nd cup, that's 2 cups. Again, filter it as well. And an additional 2/3 of a cup. In the meantime, let me go ahead and start the burner, get that going. And again, 2/3 of a cup. There we go. Again, through the strainer. Pretty much the only thing that's going to strain out is, because I do use fresh squeezed lemon, and the pulp, I don't remove it when I pour it in. I just kind of let it sit for a bit. That just removes the pulp or anything else that I may not want in there. Put this down here. Close this up. Now I'm going to let this come to a boil. And as I'm waiting for it to come to the boil, let me put this here now. I am going to add and stir 1 package of pectin. Okay, so 1 full package of pectin is what's gonna go in here. Let's go ahead and get this done. And as you put it in, make sure that you stir the whole time, just to avoid any lumpiness, okay? You will note as you watch this video that I cover my hair at all times. I have fairly wild hair. I have a lot of natural curls which go in every direction. And one of the directions I do not want it to go in is in any of my pots, okay? Never do I want that. So that's just a precaution I take. And as any good cook will tell you, that's just a good rule to follow. Cover your hair. Right, so I will let this boil. And again, as it's boiling, you always want to keep it just stirring. Okay, you just stir it. You want to let this boil. Once it boils, let it come to a hard rolling boil for 1 minute. Being careful to observe that nothing boils over the pot. So I've got this, I believe, this is like a 4-quart pot, and I've got the 2 2/3 cups of liquid in here to just give it plenty of room just for safety, because there's nothing worse than getting boiled product onto your stove or your burners, especially when you add the sugar. Okay, you just basically caramelize it. So again, just stir it up really nicely and let it boil. Once it comes to a boil, make sure the burner is all the way high for 1 full minute. And I'll show you as I go, but once that has happened, I will be adding the sugar. And when the sugar is added, you add it all at once. Don't just put little bits and stir a little bit. Pour it all at once in there, add it all at once. And when that has happened, you need to make sure that you maintain the stirring of that sugar. It prevents from burning it, and you make sure that way that everything is just mixed really, really well. Okay? When it comes to a hard rolling boil with the sugar, once the sugar is in it, it is really, really important as well that you let it boil for 1 solid minute. And I time it. I have a clock right in front of me. I observe the moment I put it in, and I just time it, because that is a really important part. That'll really pretty much ensure that if you've got your ingredients measured properly, the right sugar versus the right extract or whatever jelly you may be cooking at any time, it assures that you will have a nice gel. And then I have my spoons here, and with these spoons, I dip them in, and you get kind of like a sheeting effect versus it just drips off. When it's kind of solid, then you know you've got a nice gelling taking place. And then you go ahead and jar it. I will be laying my jars here up the ready, and I've got a ladle here to scoop it up with, just so that there's no delay. Okay, you don't want your jelly to clump up as it hits cold air, and then you have lumpy jelly or something that is just bubbled. Okay, let's bring the camera over. As you can see, I've laid out a towel there because when I put my jars there, I don't really want to shock them. And the Manzanita blossom extract is boiling right now. Got a nice boil to it. And as you can see, as I stir it, the boil continues, and that's what you want to see. You don't want something that if you stir it and the boil disappears, it's not boiling hard enough. Okay, so I'm gonna let it boil. It still has about probably 15 more seconds or so, and I will just let this boil. And again, I'm checking. It's got a nice hard boil to it. Nice boil to it. Okay, I'm ready to add the sugar, and I'm going to add, as I said, the sugar all at once. Okay, so I'm going to just pour it in there. And then immediately stir it in. Just stir, stir, stir. Make sure you get well stirred. Make sure you can kind of see a few little whitish lumps of sugar. Make sure you get that all well mixed in there. And now you're gonna stir this, let it come to a hard boil once again for 1 minute. It's okay if you go over, 5, 10, 15 seconds, whatever, but don't let it just boil and boil and boil and boil and boil. So let it come to a boil, very hard boil. And this is the stage where it'll creep up here and can spill if you're not mindful of it. So just be very, very careful of what you're doing and watch it as it goes. Okay, so I have grabbed some lids ready here. And I've got 5 jars ready and waiting. These jars are hot. I put them through the sanitized cycle in my dishwasher, and they get hotter than you can actually touch. They get really, really hot. Now, let me just show you again. This has come to a boil. See how hard that's boiling? You can hardly keep it down. And that's what you want to see. So I'm gonna really, and you have to just keep doing this, and we're talking at least a minute, okay? At least a minute. Trying to hold my phone here without it shaking too much as I boil. Basically, it's just a pot of foam right now. That's how hard this thing is boiling. Okay. The kitchen, by the way, has this wonderful, wonderful smell. As well, when you cook down your Manzanita blossom flowers, the whole house will smell like honey. It's just absolutely exquisite. So here we continue to stir and stir and stir. I'm gonna put this down as I continue to stir, and I've got to, okay. Now I turn it off. Turn it off right there. Go back and take a peek. And that was at such a boil that basically it continues to boil for a bit on its own. Put a little light on that. Okay. And you just wait about a minute and you skim off any of the bubbles that are accumulated on the top. And let's just check and see. See how it basically stays like in one sheet? You can actually see a dividing line, and it's kind of hard to tell. It's like a mirror. It's hard to tell. But there is if you were to lick this spoon, you would actually feel the difference. And you see how thick it is now? Pretty much starts to gel as soon as it cools down, and that's exactly what you want consistency wise. Okay, the next step will be to fill the jars. Now, I've often just poured it in, but I find that depending on my mood, I'll put this on so I can just pour it in there. Okay. Every once in a while, you want to just kind of double check, because you don't want to fill it all the way to the top. You want to leave half an inch, quarter an inch to half an inch. I usually leave about a quarter-ish of an inch at the top. Move this on to the next one. Continue filling the jars. Okay. Third jar. And again, you might get 4, you might get 5. I think I'll probably get 5 filled with this batch. And then if not, there's always a little bit left over. So what I do is I have an extra little jar, and that becomes the household jar. People like to buy these from me, and I like to give them as gifts at times. So the household one is the one that just is for family members. Okay, our 4th jar is being filled. once I have all my jars filled, I will take a clean spoon and I skim off the top any bubbles that have accumulated on the top. Usually you see a little bit of just on the top. Let's see here. A tiny bit more. I may not have to even do any extra on this one. A little bit more in here. There. Yeah, perfect. Perfect. So I take an extra spoon, which is why I keep a bunch of spoons, and I take and I kind of skim scoop this foamy stuff. I get rid of. And you want to make sure that as you're doing it, you try to avoid getting the rim of your glass, of your jar here, sticky with anything, because you want to make sure you always have a good seal once you put it in your water bath. And we've got one more here. This one's got a little more I'd like to remove. There we go. The bubbles tend to sort of clump together, which is nice, so you can get to them. And then I go ahead and just to be sure that there's nothing that's gonna stick on the edge, I take a boiling hot rag, literally. This is clean. These are paper towels that my daughter has made me. They're called paper towels, and I just wipe the top, being very careful. This is hot, very hot. You don't want to have anything that's gonna have lint on it, but you do want a nice clean edge. This being done, I take my lids, which I have had here, and you anticipate how many lids you need. I've only needed 4 right now, and I'm gonna just take one at a time. Like that, okay, and this water is pretty close to boiling, so as you can see why I start the water living up here at an earlier point than I do anything else. And I take one lid and then I give it a shake, carefully place it on that. Just gives you nicely hot lids. You do want to make sure you have everything hot. You never, ever, ever want to put hot liquid in a cold jar or bottle because it'll just burst it. I did that one time making a cranberry sauce, fresh cranberry sauce. I was cleaning up cranberry sticky stuff for weeks in mysterious places that you never would have guessed it would have shown up in, ever. Like up and underneath things. So it's quite the job just to clean up. So again, you always want everything to be hot. Okay, so now all the jars have got their little lids, and I have this, it's got a magnet at the end and makes it easier to work with. Over here I've got my rings. What you want to do with the rings, you want to hand tighten and whew, be careful, those are hot. Okay. Just hand tighten, that's all you want to do with this. Pick them up and give it another twist to make sure. And so far, look at this beautiful, beautiful stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and process them now. And I let them process for 10 minutes sometimes 12 minutes in the hot water bath. Okay, you can see how it's, and if you don't have one, get yourself one of these. Pick them up carefully. Find the perfect spot in the water bath to put them in. There we go. And the second one is in. Third one is in. And got the fourth one in. I like to set my kitchen timer. I'll set it for 11 minutes. Between 10 and 12 minutes is what I like to do. And that's basically the process for making jelly. And as you can see here, just the jelly that has been, can no longer even knock it off the spoon. That has gelled to a beautiful, that is so amazing. I hope some of you will dare to step out on such a foraging adventure. Right now, the manzanitas are in bloom, and they will continue to bloom through March, even sometimes April, depending on the elevation. The higher the elevation, the longer they take to bloom, okay? And it is a treat. It is absolutely wonderful. I do the syrup pretty much the same way, and minus all the, the pectin, and people use it they put it over ice cream, they put it over pancakes. Folks use it in alcoholic drinks. They put it in, they make gin. I have a friend who made what she calls a gin blossom using my Manzanita syrup. So I wish you all the best, and go out and forage. There are so many wonderful things out there. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. I will be making more different wild berries out there. I don't do blackberries and raspberries because pretty much anyone can do those. I just do the things that nobody else is doing out there. And I'll also be bringing you some recipes showing you how I make my acorn flour and goods that I actually bake with it. Have a great day.